I'm not exactly sure if the Bills had the best draft of this class, but I do think the Bills had the most fun draft of this class, or at least one of them. This was a very fun draft and a very good one at that as well. Starting off with 23, Kair Elam. This is kind of the one pick they needed. The more and more we got closer to the draft, the more I felt like, yeah, they really do need to get a corner here. Again, with Tre'Davious White coming back, it'll be better. If you remember, he was hurt towards the end of last season. But with him and now Elam playing opposite, where Elam's a guy who can play man, and I think he has the skill set to play zone. So that's important in the Vikings, in the Bills defense where they play a lot of different things. Having a guy who can do different things is valuable. I was really high on him. I think he's a really good corner, a really underrated corner. And so getting him at 23, like, yeah, this is good value. I know that the consensus was at 29. But listen, having a corner matters. Having good quality corners matter. And someone like Elam, I think, can really help you, again, especially in the postseason when you're going to be playing good wide receivers, good quarterbacks. Got to have guys who can cover. He can cover. So 63 was a really interesting pick. This is something that I had seen mocked. This is something that in my mock draft, I actually had Breece Hall going at 63 to the Bills when I did my second round pick, largely due to it's like, okay, yes, I usually hate running backs at this spot, but if you're ready to be competitive now, I don't hate it as much, especially if you could use a running back. The question is, that was Breece Hall, who I was, a fan of. James Cook, this feels like maybe a bit of a reach because he's not someone who many people had, this high. Listen, I don't think he falls to them in round 3. Teams like to draft running backs too early. That's what they do. So if you wanted to, again, take a luxury pick, which a running back is, you're probably going to have to do it there if you wanted James Cook. The question is James Cook that guy? He's an interesting player. So obviously he's, brother of Dalvin Cook. So maybe you hope that he can replicate some of that. But I don't think he's the prospect of Dalvin Cook. James Cook went down very easy, I thought, because he isn't the biggest guy. However, he is someone who can kind of do all facets of the game. He can catch, he can block, he can receive, and I said catch and receive. I meant to say he can catch, he can block, and he can run, which, someone like that is very valuable. He will be a day one starter for the Bills, so it's just not the most important position, but might be one of the most important positions that they had to fill. At pick 89, Terrell Bernard here, who's a very fascinating guy, I think, as he is someone who, I think he can definitely find some ways to potentially help them. So he's a linebacker who's a bit of a smaller linebacker. He's 220, only 6'1". Maybe they want to transition him to safety. I don't know. Not like they need a safety, but maybe like in the future. Because, he is a little bit undersized. I think he's probably just a depth guy. He had fine production. It wasn't spectacular. This is, according to the consensus big board, he was the 157th rated prospect. He goes at 89. So definitely feels like a bit of a reach, but maybe they felt like they're in a luxury spot where they can reach. At 148, they get someone who was on this spot was 93rd on the consensus big board. So if those two guys switched around, this would have made a lot more sense. Kind of one of those weird situations. Khalil Shakir, who made my top 10 wide receivers list at number 10, I think he could be a good slot guy and a Cole Beasley replacement. Can make some good catches. He'll make a one-handed catch that makes everyone go crazy in Buffalo. I promise you that. That's what he can do. And then at 180, maybe the most fun pick, the punt god himself, Matt Ariza, which, listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am some punt evaluation expert. I do not know that much about special teams, so I'm just guessing. Basically, what I think I understand about him is he's kind of a guy with a huge leg, but he's not like the most technically sound punter. I guess he constantly just punts it as far as he can and punts like line drive punts, which aren't that great because typically you want your gunners to have time to get in position to make a tackle. And you can punt it there is such a thing as punting it too far. Usually that means it's on a laser. So that's why, problems can arise. No pun intended with his name being Ariza. But that being said, again, I'm not some punting expert. It feels like it shouldn't be that difficult to teach someone to just punt it a little bit higher, right? Like, hey, punt it at a little bit of a different angle. Like, do that. But then again, I guess, are you losing some of his value there? I don't know. I'm interested in seeing how it works. Kind of a fun prospect. Don't really love drafting punters here just in general, but I guess if there is a team that can afford to do it, it's the team that was maybe the best team in football last year, and until they lost one of their star players in Tre'Davious White, and we're still very good after him. For their final three picks, first with pick 185, this feels like a, hey, let's get someone who, in case we have some more injuries at the corner position where we can be okay, get some depth at that position with Christian Benford, who the consensus big board not high on, 338 according to the consensus big board. He was 185th drafted overall. Seems like he's a guy who, was at a small school, but he produced well. Not really someone who maybe necessarily has the athleticism of some of these other guys, but has performed well. And so again, any sixth round corner, I'm going to think in my head, could he be a special teams guy? So we'll see about that. Also at 209, Luke Tanukta, who is an interesting player in his own right. He's 6'9", so maybe thinking, oh my God, mammoth of a human, but apparently he doesn't have that long of arms. So that's, obviously arm length, people care a lot about that, although it doesn't really seem to matter that much according to if you look it up, but people care about it. So again, that's someone who, it's interesting. He's not the best athlete, which makes sense because he is so big. It's hard to be that athletic there. So probably just some offensive line depth and nothing else. And then finally, Balin Spector, who I think some people feel like he might actually be he's a linebacker. So typically linebacker 231. Okay, special teams. Apparently they might actually think that he could be someone who could actually play and be someone who could compete for at least a backup job, but probably is just going to be special teams is what I would assume. So that's the Bills draft. Like I said, is this the best draft of the offseason? I don't know. But is this very fun? Yeah, it was very fun. Is the James Cook pick going to be one that's going to win him a Super Bowl? I don't know. But are we going to absolutely know who James Cook is week 8? Yeah, sure, we are. And with the 63rd overall pick, you don't always do that. Khalil Shakir is, I guarantee you, he's going to make some fun catch. Matt Ariza, we're probably going to hear some about. And then Kair Elam is kind of the practical pick, but still a very good one. I think that he's someone who can be very good for the Buffalo Bills. So we felt like this was a team that could draft for need as opposed to draft for, best player available. They don't need to maximize value. What they need is to add talent and add guys that can help them win this year. And they did that. So that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills draft? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.